Talk about one gorgeous, sexy GT. Wow, the Ford GT is an incredible car. I have had the fun of being able to own this car and drive it, and this car is definitely built with a purpose, just like our Chevelles. This is gonna be a good week because we're gonna walk you through the purposeful things that we've been doing on the cars, and we're gonna highlight a little bit about that Ford GT. What a car, wow. Man, it's just a cool car. Wait till you see what I'm gonna do to it. It ain't even fast yet, baby. Wow, this beautiful car is built like a fighter jet. This is all an aluminum composite combination chassis that is built for speed. It is light, it is fast, and it is aerodynamic. I swear if this thing had wings, it would fly. This thing is a rocket ship. This chassis is made 100% of aluminum. Between the hydroform pieces and the aluminum that's welded into this baby, making the exoskeleton, you see the triangulation back here? Man, this is a beautiful piece of art. I've had the pleasure to drive it a little bit, but that is because it is a race car for the street. That's its purpose. When you gotta go over 200 miles an hour, you gotta have it aerodynamic and you gotta have it light, and it's gotta be able to stay on the road. Purposely built car, right? The Chevelles that I'm doing have a purpose too. And our purpose is a little bit different. I wanna be able to put the family, the dog, and the golf clubs and go cross country with a huge horsepower car. So what you're gonna see we're doing with this chassis is completely different than most people do. Now, some people will go ahead and buy the Speed Tech kit and go ahead and try and box and reinforce the chassis, which is cool, but we take it to a whole nother level. With what we're doing here, I'm able to utilize the 15-inch rims. Ask me why, let me tell you. The fact that I can run a 15-inch rim means that I can use Cooper Cobras or I can use BFG Radial TA tires. Now I can make that thing look like it did in 1970. I love that look. Instead of having the big rims on it with the little rubber on it, which you can still run on this car with a 6-piston caliper in front and a 4-piston Willwood caliper in back, no problem. But now you got the option of actually using the old vintage rims and tires in that look. So we sink that down, we set the ride height exactly where we want it to be, and that reinforced chassis will handle the horsepower that we're gonna put to it. That's what we call a sleeper, kids. We got all that horsepower reinforced. It's solid as a rock. This gorgeous 5.4 liter is actually hand built at the Ford factory on a special production line. The guys that actually put this engine together actually put a plate on top of the valve cover that's signed by them. They take a lot of pride and ownership in the fact that they build these things specific. It's highly balanced, it's highly tuned. It is a supercharged 5.4 liter, 32 valve. This thing is suited perfectly for this race car because it is a race car. It's aerodynamic and it's fast, but this engine, where it's placed, is absolutely perfect to be able to go out there and compete in a road course all over the place. So the question is, should I do a mid-engine Chevelle? I don't think so. I don't think that's the kind of car you're gonna want to drive across country. The cars I'm building are for you. You choose the gearing, you choose the application. You want something for the drag strip? I'll give it to you. But typically the guys that get cars from me, they want to be able to get in them, drive them every day, enjoy them, have them really fast, look epic, and that's what we've done with the 70 Chevelles. So let me show you the next LT4 with the Brian Tooley setup. Yes, we're pushing the horsepower beyond stock, but we can. Okay, kids, what we're doing here is we're actually modifying this brand new crate motor from GM with a Brian Tooley cam and lifter setup. Why, ask me? Well, we're gonna run a little bit more boost at it, and we're gonna get rid of the displacement on demand. That's the fuel economy trick that GM uses to actually make them a little bit more fuel efficient. However, in a hot rod with a little bit of extra boost, we do not want displacement on demand. So we delete that and eliminate that, and then we also take out the cam phaser, which actually changes the timing of the cam, again, for fuel economy. This thing's gonna be running a little bit more boost, so when we rip it down, we put a different set of head gaskets on it. We'll go ahead and put the ARP bolts in it. We gotta clamp those heads down real tight to actually handle the extra power that this thing is going to make. So a little bit of planning up front is going to go a long way into making a great driving car. Last but not least, we had to figure out exactly where we wanted to place that motor as far as serviceability, runability, drivability. You got to be able to pull the transmission out after the car is actually together, right? So calculating all those things and making sure that you have the right pinion angle in relationship to the engine and driveline is critical to make this bad boy come together as one purposely built, highly executed, quality beast. Okay, so you may ask yourself, why are they comparing it? What does a GT40 have to do with a 1970 Chevelle or the Chevelles that we're building anyways? Good question. What I'm trying to cover with you guys and give you details around is the fact that each one of those cars, the GT and this, are actually purposely designed, right? So we had to go through a lot of iterations, a lot of changes, a lot of details to actually make these cars be what I think the public really wants to have these days. I'm not building trailer queens, I'm building driving kings, man. These are the king of the road. You got this one with the 800 plus horsepower. With our chassis, it's gonna be a beast on the road, but it's actually gonna be something that you can run and drive and enjoy every day. And every part on that car has got to be compliant for warranty's sake. This one's going to a guy named Andy. He actually lives around the St. Louis area. This car will go to him and I can't have problems. It's just not gonna work out real well, if you know what I'm saying. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing buttoned up. You can see we've moved pretty quickly between the chassis being ready, the engine's in it, all the body is on it now, and we're right now just installing the new steering column and hook it up to the rack and pinion. And guess what? Next, it'll go on the rack. Speaking of on the rack, what I wanna show you is the bottom side of that GT40 and what they did between the aerodynamics, the diffuser, and we're gonna compare it up with the Grey Ghost that's actually up there getting ready to run. That's sitting right next to it. Come on, let's go see that. Now that I got a chance to drive this a little bit and had to take it to the dealer for an oil change, hello. People specialize in what they do. Why in the world would I want to put this thing on a lift, remove the lower body pans, I'll show you here in just a second, and change the oil? My guys at Victor Ford Local, great guys. They took it in, it was safe, and they're experts with these cars. The snake almost bit me. It's pretty amazing how the whole thing is sheeted for aerodynamics. These guys really had a purpose when they were building the car. It's got to handle a 200 plus mile an hour speed. Look at the diffusers. You see that in high-end race cars, you'll see it on Ferraris, you'll see it on some other stuff, but this bottom side of this car is totally flat, totally clean, and it's all purposely driven. It's a little dirtier than I'd like it to be, but it's been driven. Why not, right? Okay, now let's go check out what the Chevelle actually looks like on the underside. I'll point out a couple little features to you, and then we'll wrap this baby up. Guys, it's not a one-shot deal. Building these cars repetitively gives me an opportunity to actually fine-tune them. Something I had some concerns with is we got the exhaust in here and got this all laid out exactly like I wanted it to be. What I found was there's a couple areas of the thing that I thought was going to generate a little bit excessive heat. And rather than have a problem down the road, I'm taking the time. I literally had to pull the transmission out of it. Look at this. See this heat shield right here? Pretty slick. Murphy, see that? You got it? That's really cool. And then I built another one in the back that's by the fuel pressure regulator because it uses a PWM, post-switch modulation, to run the pump in here. But I wanted to give it a couple extra things. So believe it or not, to make this fit and to make sure it was still serviceable, I went ahead and pulled the trans back out of it and the drive shaft. I know, I'm a little crazy, but making the ultimate driving Chevelle is what my goal is, and it has to be serviceable. It really drives me nuts when people put stuff together like my GT, that you gotta pull the bottom off of it to change the oil. Not here. I'm gonna make sure when this thing leaves, it's gonna be designed to be serviced, to be fixed, to be usable and enjoyable. But it takes a lot of engineering up front. I'm not Mr. Shelby. Wish I was. I did know him, but I ain't. Anyways, speaking about being purposeful, the best part of the week, I always like to share something out of the Word, and I have a purpose of tying that back together with what God has to say for your life and a purpose. Programmable coolant injector. Guys, this is the part of the episode I always like to share with you because I try to pick something out of the Bible that means something to me, and this is a very interesting thing. This week we talked about the purposely built cars, you know, that Ford GT or the Chevelles that we're building. They have a purpose, right? Do you ever wonder what your purpose is? sometimes it's just confusing, or things happen that you just don't understand, or you're feeling lost because like you had a plan to go this way, but it didn't work out that way. Who's got a plan? You know, what's our purpose? Here's a cool verse. It's in the book of Ephesians, which is in the New Testament part of the Bible. Here's your Bible study, right? New Testament part of the Bible, written by a guy, I think, named Paul. I'm going to check that just so I can, Paul. He wrote a lot of verses in the New Testament part of the Bible. But anyways, Ephesians 2:10, great verse. Actually, I'm going to start with 8. 2:8. For it is by grace that you have been saved, through faith. It is not from yourselves. It is a gift of God, not by works that any man should boast. Hold that for a second. It's like a gift that you can be saved, right? And people, you know, we shouldn't boast about ever what it is we do, because everybody's life has struggles. Everybody fails. Everybody has sin. Everybody has challenges in their lives. But let me finish up with the really good part of the news. Ready? For we are, next verse, right? There was 9. Not by works that anybody should boast. 10. For we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God has prepared in advance for us to do. If you pray and ask God to show up in your life, He'll show you the way. That was my point in the whole thing. We can have purpose on the cars that we're building. That's all fun and cool, but God's got a plan for you. Get a Bible, read it, check it out a little bit. Ask God to give you, what's your purpose? What do you got planned for me this week? Anyways, great episode. Love sharing with you guys the cars. It's been fun. You know, like, subscribe, follow along. And next week, we'll be going vroom, vroom. Oh, yeah.